Our guest today writes for Phoenix Honda Racing in the Pro XC1 class and GNCC Racing and races some AMA Pro Motocross races as well. We are joined by Mike Witkowski. Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
So people who normally watch our podcast, they'll notice a couple things. First off, Scott is was not available tonight. So Jacob is filling in, but it's appropriate because Jacob is into motocross, into GNCC racing, into dirt bikes. So I thought it would be a perfect substitute. So fortunately or unfortunately for you, you will not get the full Scott Valley experience today. Maybe another time. It won't make any sense until you actually meet him. But yeah, and then number two, most of our guests will notice, and normally we interview. Most of the time, it's race car drivers, Indy car drivers, sports car drivers. We have interviewed people before that have raced motorcycles, but they also raced cars as well. So you are the first like sole, motocross rider that we've had on the podcast. So it's the first. So I appreciate you being the first one and coming on.
No, I feel honored. I know we've been kind of wanting to do this for a while, and I was like, man, I need to honor my word and make this happen for sure. I know
Yeah.
we've been busy this year, but no, I'm stoked.
And obviously, with the Race 92 brand, we have the Mike Witkowski merchandise line, which I actually have one of the shirts on. And I know we need to work on, we have a couple other shirts we're going to release. So probably before the next race will probably be a good time to do that. So we can talk about that later on. But for anyone wanting Mike Witkowski merchandise, you can go to race92.com and there's a few options and we'll have some more. And I know we've talked about maybe doing some giveaways or ways for people to kind of be involved, as well as the trading cards. If people go to a race and they ask you for one of our trading cards, you have signed trading cards that you hand out. So
hmm Yeah, for sure. Um, and then also, yeah, sometimes I give away some jerseys. Some of the fans I don't know, after a race or whatnot. So yeah, it's always good to get interacted with some of the fans. So yeah, swing by for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit for people who don't know what GNCC racing is. Talk a little bit about what GNCC racing is all about.
Yeah, so GNCC, it's basically an endurance dirt bike race. We race for 3 hours in the woods. There's a basically one pit stop throughout this, similar to car racing or NASCAR or what have you. And
Yeah.
Um, it's a flag drop. We all start obviously on a row with all our other competitors, and yeah, flag drop, race for 3 hours. Best man wins, and usually the track is roughly 13 miles. Um, so yeah, it's very entertaining, and it is covered. It's like televised and whatnot, so you can watch it, but it's uh it's definitely growing as a sport, obviously, but I've been racing it since I think I was 13. I went pro when I was 16 in the GC stuff. I'm 27 now, so I kind of been, at it for a while, but it's cool to see the evolution, I guess you could say, of the sport, um, and now I think we have more eyes on it now, and we have quite a bit of respect, which is cool. And then also a little off topic, but it was cool to kind of venture out into the moto world and um, I guess show those guys a GNC guy, and then vice versa. Some of those guys come to our series.
Yeah, and I'll say, GNCC does a pretty good job with, broadcasting the races. As you were saying, like it's actually all available on YouTube. You don't need any special subscription. They do a live stream on YouTube for the entire pro race. So yeah, no, I was pretty impressed with that, and it's cool to be able to watch every single race. So they do a pretty good job with that for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. So every or not every Sunday, but obviously the series is on GNCCRacing.com. You can check the schedule, and then on the Sundays at 1 p.m. we race or I race. and yeah, you can tune in live and cheer me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit about how did the journey start for you? So how did you get interested in dirt bike races? Is that in your family or just, how did you get interested in it?
Yeah, so my dad, well, I guess to start first, my whole family raced when I was younger. Me and my brothers and sister even would go all to the races, and honestly, we didn't go to the nationals till like I said, I was 13. But we started at the local scene for a while, and then made our way to the bigger stuff once my dad thought we were ready. But my dad actually raced flat track, and I didn't like me and my brothers never raced flat track or anything like that, but he put us in hare scrambles. I'm from Indiana, so it was all the local stuff around there. And then we would venture out to like some of the surrounding areas. Obviously, just on the East Coast there, but yeah, I guess to sum it up, my dad got me and my brothers into it, and then they still race now for fun, and we'll do some of the actually two of my brothers are racing this weekend at the local with me, so it'd be fun to kind of reunite and kind of bring back some memories.
Yeah.
Very nice. That's really cool. Yeah, so I guess I had the privilege of attempting hare scrambles, like local level stuff myself, when I was in high school. So those are no joke, and that was just the amateur level. So the GNCC is a whole other level. But describe your first hare scramble. Like, what were you feeling? Like, what were you experiencing? Was it kind of, were you really nervous, like I was for my first race, or were you a little more excited and like a true racer, ready to go for the win, like from the get-go?
Yeah, I think I mean I was probably experienced a lot of different things. I was excited, but I was telling someone the other day, I was like, man, I remember as a kid, I was like so nervous. Um, just the unknown and honestly, a lot of the Indiana stuff, like it was not easy. It was more like the tracks they put on were tough for us in a good way. Like it challenged us as kids, and yeah, I remember like just a lot of different emotions and going through it for sure. But I'm thankful for those times because I think that shaped me for what we do or what I do now. Some of the bigger races, I'm not really nervous anymore. I can kind of deal with it, and I can relate a lot of that to like just that local stuff as a kid, and it's definitely cool to look back though. There's still a really good presence of Indiana off-road racing, like the IXCR stuff. Um, I know there's a bunch of good ones around there, but they're doing really well still.
Who
Nice. What kind of bike were you on then too? Did you start out for your first race and kind of
Yeah, I think it was a PW50 was my first one, and then obviously a CRF 50. I think I jumped on at one point, and then I was on like the junior KTM 50s, transition to 65s. I was on KTM for a long time, um, and yeah, most of my amateur career.
very nice? Sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to
Oh,
cut you
no, no,
off
you're
there.
fine. Um when, growing up, who were some of your racing heroes?
I used to obviously look up to Ricky Carmichael,
Sure.
and then I think that was just like the biggest thing I remember. Um, some of the off-road stuff, I forgot who I would watch, but back in that era, I think U-Haul Solomon was around, which he was like a European guy, but he was very dominant and kind of was in and out, like just came in and then left, won a bunch of races. But as far as like the biggest dude,
Are you talking about David Knight?
no, he was around too.
Yeah, that's who, when you say European guy, that's who I think of, because I remember seeing him in the Iron Man, and that guy was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's an animal, and he still is. He still races and stuff.
Yeah.
But U-Haul was like a similar dude, but
Oh, okay.
maybe he might have been even before David was. But Um, but no, David, yeah, he was definitely, he's just like, he was like this, just like this super tall dude and just seemed like just muscled the bike around, um, which is unlike a lot of the guys now. Like some of the guys are smaller, more lanky, taller, but he was just like just super strong, just basically get stuck, just pick his bike up, it seemed like, out of anything.
Yeah, that
Now,
guy kind of had the build of like
sorry.
an NFL linebacker or
Yeah,
something. I
I
remember
mean,
it
him
was
and Jacob
insane.
are similar. Him and Jacob are probably similar height. I mean, Jacob's probably a little taller, but you're still both pretty tall.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So talk a little bit. So obviously, motocross, GNCC is kind of like a niche market of dirt bikes. I think it's safe to say, like, at some point, did you ever, kind of go towards a motocross route? I mean, obviously now you're doing motocross races here and there. But did you do any motocross as a kid? Or was it mostly hair scrambles?
Yeah, we did. My dad took us to Redbud, which is obviously a big national track, but
Sure.
we didn't race the national or anything. We just did amateur day. And then um, we did a lot. I mean, we did do like some local motocross stuff, but it was never like serious. I guess we didn't take it serious. Our focus was how can we get better in off road, and
Sure.
we felt like to gain the speed was through motocross. So that's kind of the path we chose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So, you're racing amateur. At what point did like you and your family decide like, hey, like I think I can make a career of this? Like at what point did it kind of shift from this is like just kind of a something I do for fun to I think we're gonna make a go at this and see what we can do.
Yeah, I would say I think the biggest turning point was um, I was racing locals on super minis, and there's this one kid that was racing nationals, and I would beat him sometimes. We would battle really hard, and then my dad was like, "All right, let's go to the nationals and see." And my first one, I think I won like the youth overall. I beat that kid and stuff, and we were like, all right, let's chase the series the following year. And then we did that, and I did really well. I think I won the championship in super minis, and then I went to 250A after that. I think was around 2014 or something like that. I'm not sure, but and then when I was 16, I got my first like pro contract, and that was the turning point where we worked so hard for that I guess opportunity. And unfortunately I struggled that year, but I did get one podium. But ever since, I guess you could say, when I was 16 is like we were like, all right, we can make a career out of this, or chase the opportunities and what we always kind of dreamed of.
Nice, nice.
So, what was the biggest so you talk so at one point obviously you're a privateer and then you get a pro contract. So that's basically, I mean, you go from owning your own bike to basically showing up and a bike is already there for you prepared, correct? Was that kind of how that worked, kind of your first pro contract, or is it slightly different
Essentially, back then it wasn't as, I guess,
like it
um,
is now for you?
yeah, up to par as it is now, but
Right.
it was still a really good deal.
Sure.
Straight, like straight from the factory and stuff, which was awesome. Like it took a lot of stress off the family as far as parts and
Sure.
bikes. Obviously, the cost of bikes are expensive, and we were just thankful, we could get X amount of bikes, and parts were covered, probably like a small travel and bonuses if I did well and whatnot. So, and then each year it seemed like it got better and better to where we are now. So it was almost like a stepping stone. Like we didn't get a whole lot our first year, but it was like or if you put in the results, you can earn it. So it seemed like that was kind of the way it happened.
Yeah, and for people who may not know, so there's different classes, obviously. And in the Ironman, I mean, in the pro race, how many? I mean, there was at least several hundred people racing in that pro race, right, this year?
Yeah, so I think in our afternoon, and I don't know the exact number. Probably at least 2 to 300. I don't know. I'm not too
Yeah,
good. I'm really
I mean, it
looking.
gives people an idea. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, but even in the morning class, there's maybe double that. I don't know, but there's a lot on the track. We get a lot of riders.
So, so I know 2023, you had a podium at the Hoosier GNCC. It was 2023, right?
Yes,
And it was you were in the XC2 class then?
correct. Yeah,
So what's a big difference for someone who may not understand? I don't really understand really. I mean, I know XC2 starts after XC1, but in some cases now, like XC2, sometimes they're the overall winner, right? So talk a little bit about kind of the difference between the two classes and why an XC2 guy could actually win over an XC1 guy.
yeah. So XC2 was meant to be like a stepping stone class for like so if you come from the amateur class, the ranks, you basically would jump into XC2 um, before you get to XC1. So like in XC2 riders are essentially younger than XC1 guys. And but now like we basically all train the same. We have the same equipment, and we're like all the guys are fast. So now we're finding that the XC2 guys have an advantage from starting on the second row, and they can kind of once they have us in sight on time adjustment, they're basically ahead of us. So that's why they're kind of winning in a sense because they just can sprint to the tail of the XC1, kind of get a tow, and then they don't really have to do much the rest of the race. They're basically um, they're winning the overall in most cases. So it's frustrating for sure. Like it's definitely angered me a couple times because I'm trying to race the dudes in XC1, and you got XC2 like trying getting angry if you're not out of the way. I'm like, you're trying to take my money, so I mean you can pass me the hard way if you want, but so now what they're gonna do the last I think 4 races, they're starting the top 18 XC2, XC1 on the front row,
Hmm.
which will be interesting to kind of solve the issue. But back to what I was saying, XC2 was always meant to kind of be like just a younger pro class, and then the XC1 was like the premier. Basically, when I started in XC2, it was that way, and it was rare. It was like actually very impressive if an XC2 guy would come close to the overall podium. But now it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then so also just kind of for people who aren't as initiated, XC1 you're racing like 450cc bikes, and then in XC2 it's 250cc, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, you're limited to a 250 in XC2, but XC1 is kind of like an open, so you could ride a 250 if you want, but um, everyone's basically a 350 or 450.
okay,
And
cool.
you're on a 450, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and that's the Honda CRF 450X, correct?
Yep, correct.
Sweet. I still need to test ride one at some point. Find my local Honda dealership.
Well,
But
if you're ever in North Carolina, I'll get you sorted.
yeah, maybe we'll have to figure something out. The Ironman's coming up.
Yeah, it really is coming fast.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's the other interesting thing too with GNCC racing is we've kind of touched on this is it is a multi-class sport where you're racing at the same time. It's not like in motocross where you're on the track at separate times. Kind of you're all together. Even the top amateur classes are racing alongside you.
Mhm.
So I feel like the traffic is probably quite a challenge compared to other forms of racing because these trails are they're not wide most of the time. They're really narrow. A lot of single track, as it's called, because a lot of times trees and stuff are about a handlebar width apart. So um, that's kind of another interesting aspect of GNCC racing that I think, and so but they do kind of they stagger the starts though by, well, usually by class, or in this, what they're going to be doing is the top 18, you were saying. But so it's kind of similar to sports car racing in that sense, but they do
Yeah, it
kind
is.
of give each of the classes behind you kind of a time. They kind of make up that time basically in the end. So we're not totally sure what the overall is. They kind of calculate it during the race, but we don't really know till the end. That's what I noticed watching the race. Is that true, or did I kind of, is that correct? Or
No,
um,
yeah, yeah, you're correct. They do. It is kind of like it's live updated overall. So like if you're an A rider and you're in the top, let's say you're in the top 10, it'll show on the live feed or results, which is cool. So like if you are an A rider, you can definitely make, like, that's kind of a cool thing about our sport. You can make a name for yourself if you've got like the right skill level and whatnot. You could basically technically beat us on just a time if you wanted to.
that'd be pretty hard to do though. That'd be like a GT3 car beating a prototype at the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be tough.
So, the kind of the cool thing, and I think it's a positive thing and both a negative thing for a pro rider like yourself with GNCC racing, fans can, I mean, it's like what 8-9 mile loop through the woods most of the time. So fans are right
12-ish.
along, yeah, they're right along the trail. So, like Ironman Hill, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. People are lined up, and I mean it's a very thin line going up, and you're also dealing with other riders that have a much lower skill set than someone like yourself. And I know I've asked you this before, but for the sake of the podcast, I think this is a good question. Are there any kind of sketchy moments that you've had with either fans doing stupid things or getting too close, or amateur riders stick out?
There's been a couple times where I've nearly almost hit like a fan or something. Maybe even on Ironman Hill, if I will say. But this was back. Now they have like a fence up.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been multiple close calls. But nowadays, I think everyone's pretty aware of what's going on. And if you can't hear us coming, then you're like, there's something wrong because you can definitely hear it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Right. Yeah, it's just the thing I always it's always this pandemonium, right? And I'm sure have you ever got caught up in, a situation on Ironman Hill where you can't get all the way up because someone stopped in front of you or anything like that?
yeah, that's tricky because yeah, like you guys were saying earlier, there's the trail's not super wide, so even if you have a muddy race,
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to be that technical. If an A rider's stuck in the line or whoever, like there's not much room to go around. So it's almost like you're racing the track, but you're also racing everyone else. So it's tough. There's a lot of different things that have to go right to have a good race, and it's such obviously 3 hours long time. So
Yeah. Sure.
there's so much that happens out there that no one sees. Like, so if I come into my pit stop, sometimes I'll tell the team like, hey, this happened, because they don't know. Like, I could drop, let's say I was in the lead and I dropped a minute back. They're like, dude, what do you, they think like something, I don't know, you're dropping the anchor or something, but like you're like, nah, dude, I got stuck or whatever. So there's a lot that goes on in the woods per se that no one knows, and it's just something you kind of just have to discard quickly because there's not much you can do about it. But there's been multiple times where I haven't been able to make a hill or had to redo
Sure.
something because of someone in the way.
Yeah, and I think something's important to note is with, and a lot of people in racing wouldn't really be familiar with this. With GNCC racing, you don't have practice. You race and that's your practice, right? I think it's important to say which I got to experience kind of firsthand and it did not go well. But
We
the
need to work on that a little bit.
I know. Hey, I mountain bike, but part of the problem was it was an e-bike, and I never rode an e-bike before, so there was a little bit of a learning curve. I got stuck behind some people, then you just took off. So if I'm a little bit more, I'm making excuses, but if I'm a little bit more prepared, I think I would do better. But this year we'll have Jacob do it, but and see if he can do any better. But
Aaron,
it's so
I don't think either one of us are going to come close to Mike Witkowski. He's an animal, like physically fit to do these
yeah,
races.
I'm not. So it's an e-bike, but yeah.
But so on that standpoint, these races are gnarly physically. So I did a little like homework before this podcast episode because I just wanted to find out. And um, I saw there was an interview a few years back on Racer X with I believe it was Stuart Baylor. He was saying like his fitness tracker, like he burns like 3 to 4 thousand calories each race. And I just out of curiosity, I went online to look. The average, like typical marathon, you're burning 2,500 to 3,000 calories. So you guys are easily like doing more work than you would to run a marathon.
Mhm.
That's that's crazy. So how do you how do you manage a 3 hour race then, like physically? Because I it's probably really hard to just sprint for 3 hours, both physically and mentally. So how do you kind of manage like a 3 hour race?
Yeah, it's tough and it's taken trial and error, but to give some background to some of the listeners and whatnot, like our average heart rates, or yeah, a lot of us um, on the front row are like 180 average heart rate, which is really high, and a lot of people don't kind of believe us until we show them the data.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll hit 190 max or whatnot, but 180 for the whole 3 hours is very intense, and it takes a lot of nutrition, obviously a lot of training, and then hydration and everything really. So the yeah, we're like I can back up the 3,000 calorie thing. Like that's a normal thing. It's definitely over that, probably like 3,500 or whatnot. And then but yeah, the biggest thing is kind of how I was saying, there's so many elements to what we do. We have to make sure we're eating consistently before the race, like have a big breakfast and then obviously a lunch right before the race. But then during the race, we're getting the bottle handoff, so we have Camelbacks with hydration, but also like basically like carb and sodium and whatnot mix in there. So there's like a fine line of like the last hour. If you're at the front and you're pushing really hard, you're almost in like this blackout mode where you gotta just suffer through it and like just I don't know, go into this hole, and it's tough sometimes, but it happens quite a bit, and that's why I guess we train so hard to try to push the whole 3 hours. But yeah, to to say it's hard and difficult is very true.
Hard is an understatement, I would say. Um, yeah, I just trying a 2 hour amateur race. It was I just a normal person would want to quit. I can tell you that much.
I would have quit.
It's gnarly.
I did the track ride with Mike. That's what we were talking about earlier, and I quit after not I didn't last very long. So yeah. So kind of so we were talking about riding for 3 hours. How does that compare? Obviously, you just did a motocross race, outdoor national race, and those races are what, like 30 minutes. So not as long, but kind of okay, let me ask it this way. Is 30 minutes on a motocross track versus 30 minutes on a GNCC track, how would that really compare from like a fitness level? What's more demanding?
Yeah, so I did some data on my heart rate and stuff for the moto race I did, which is two 30-minute motos with like roughly an hour break in between.
Yeah.
And they were very similar numbers, like basically 180s, average heart rate is the same way. But I will say, like for the moto race, obviously it's something different than what I'm used to. I was pushing for sure, but I wasn't able, I guess I wasn't in my comfort zone as a
Sure.
whole, so I couldn't really give it my best effort. So if like if that was something like I did, it would be, I would say, just as hard as a 3 hour race. I'm not saying it wasn't hard at all. It was definitely hard to do the 230s, but it was very manageable where I could, um, I don't know, I could recover well after the motos and, or after the first moto and then do the second moto. Actually, my second moto was my best one. So, like, yeah, it's tough to say. Like, some of our races are like Florida GNC is really tough, but I would say they're pretty similar, if I had to say, like on the physical stuff.
Yeah. Obviously the fitness thing is a big deal. Talk a little bit, what is a normal training day like for you? Just kind of a brief overview, just so people understand, kind of what that all entails.
Yeah, so right now we're pushing pretty hard. But like, so if you were to do like one of the, I guess the build up tougher days, you're kind of waking up, you're doing the stretching. All right, so a normal day for me, yeah, I'm doing the stretching straight when I wake up, and then shortly after that, I'm going. So like today, for reference, I did a gym workout, which was kind of like a circuit workout for an hour. And then I grabbed some lunch, and then I went and rode on my dirt bike for training. And I did basically, I basically did what, probably 2 hours of bike time. And then obviously, like the afternoon, I think it was like 5 o'clock when I was done, but, and then kind of just recoup the best we can. We'll get back to more training tomorrow, which is different, but it's basically just a cycle every day. We're basically doing either cycling, we're doing gym work, we're running, we're spending quite a bit of time on the dirt bike too.
I think Jacob, maybe we should film a video sometime. Trying to train. See, two normal guys or one normal guy tries to train like a pro motocross GNCC
Right?
racer. It would actually be very comical for the viewer.
You could
I
do a day
don't.
in your life. You guys could tag along. We'll film it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'd
I
be
don't think
down.
I could get through a day. I'll be honest.
I don't think I could
As of
get
right
through
now,
10 minutes.
I'd have to train just to go like train. Like, you know what I mean?
You
I don't
need a
even know if I
Yeah,
could.
need a break after you train. Like, I don't
The
know.
video's more authentic if you just go into with like no training or anything. I think it makes it more authentic and better for the viewer. But no, I've been to the gym with my buddy Jagger, who's a pro race car driver, and um, yeah, it was definitely no joke. I definitely learned some things the hard way. But yeah, so a question that I've asked people in the past, and this will kind of lead into another question, but I've asked a lot of race car drivers, like, what kind of sets you apart, what makes you different, and I mean, really for like IndyCar racing, NASCAR, like, I think it's a lot tougher for people to get rides. I'm not saying it's not tough for you to get a ride, but it's just so like you have to bring like $1 million to the table in some situations to be able to get a ride. It's all sponsor driven. And so I've always asked, like, what's the one thing that you kind of bring to the table? And I asked this question once, and I won't say who it is, but and I really don't care. It was just he did not understand the question, and he just kept answering with, "Well, they get free food." I asked this question to Will Power, who's an IndyCar mul- one or two. He's won one or two IndyCar championships, Indy 500 winner, one of the greatest IndyCar drivers of all time, and he immediately answered with, it kind of comes down to the mental aspect of how you mentally, approach a race, approach what you're doing, the sport. Talk mental. The mental part is probably just as important, if not more important, than the physical part in some ways, right? So talk a little bit about kind of like how you mentally prepare for a 3 hour race and kind of what sets you apart from others as far as the mental, aspect goes.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're onto something with that. Like it does. It's I would say mostly mental. Like a lot of like kind of how I said earlier, a lot of the guys are fast and fit and do all the right things, but maybe mentally they're not in the right headspace, or honestly some stuff could carry over from the their personal life that
Sure.
day. Just a tough day. But I guess what sets me apart that I can be straight up about is like I don't cut corners. Like I work really hard, and that helps me a lot mentally. Um, and I've always been like this. Like I'll work harder. Like I don't know. I work definitely harder than anyone.
Yeah.
Um, most times if I have to, obviously I have a very good trainer that has me very structured, so I'm not like digging myself in a hole or anything like that. But I can say I'm very driven, and I want to obviously succeed very badly, and I've worked my whole life for this. Um, so that kind of gives me that mental edge. Is like you know you can do this. You have all the skills. You have the
Sure.
bike, the team. You have the support staff, your family. So for me, when I line up, I'm like, all right, mentally, I have everything. I work really hard. I have a good trainer. You do everything right. So if you can ride like you know how to ride, then you can easily be, up front contending for race wins. So that's kind of, I guess, where I stand mentally.
No, that's a good answer. You didn't say free food, so that's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Um, so, you've talked about doing, well, actually, no, here's a question I want to ask. So, obviously you have a race bike that the team prepares. So how does it work? So obviously you practice. Now the kind of racing me and Jacob are really used to, IndyCar racing or NASCAR, any types of, car racing. When they do a test, I mean, it's a full team thing. The whole team has to go. It probably costs $50,000 just to turn on the engine. You have to have like Chevy engineers or whatever involved. Obviously your form of racing's a lot different. Now, do you get a bike from the team that's specifically your practice bike that you basically take home with you? Or how does that work?
Yeah. So every year we get a practice bike, sometimes two, just in case like we need it or whatnot. But yeah, I get my own practice bike. I have one here with me now in Michigan,
Hmm.
and that's what I'll actually race this weekend since it's not like a contracted race. It's just kind of for fun. So I'll be on that this weekend, and in general day to day stuff. Like yeah, I'm just on the practice bike, and it's not obviously as serious as like the car racing stuff. We don't need a bunch of engineers for practice and stuff because we're
Yeah,
riding so much.
sure.
And generally, I can do a lot of maintenance on my own with that stuff. But my mechanic Chase, he does when I am home. He'll help like all the major stuff that I would need. But 90% of the time, for practice stuff, I'll do my general maintenance to make sure the bike's good through the week. So, but yeah, I would agree. It's definitely a lot different from what the car racing side sounds like.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And like I said, the big thing with car racing and you may not be really aware. I don't know, I know I mentioned it a few minutes ago. But it's just, to do, for example, to do a full season of USF 2000, which is several steps below IndyCar, I mean, a driver has to bring like $400,000 for the whole season. People think that drivers get paid, and some do, but not very many do. Like you have to bring, for IndyCar, it's about 9 million for an entire year, I think.
Yeah, that's
Like,
unreal.
like I'm not even joking. So drivers find ways to make money and do business to business deals and all that. So there's a lot more marketing involved in that, and yeah, it's a tough business.
Yeah,
Racing
luckily,
in
like,
general is tough.
no, I mean, that's insane numbers just to go racing. But I mean, I will say yeah, a lot of us, we are thankful enough we get opportunities to get paid rides and
Yeah,
go enjoy riding dirt bikes.
yeah, no, absolutely.
So
I think it's had a couple more questions.
I did have
We're
one
so
more question to
so
kind
yeah,
of
go ahead,
piggyback
Jacob.
off of,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
so to piggyback off of the bike thing. So your team, Phoenix Honda, do you guys work with the Honda factory, like the HRC operation or
Good
anything at
question.
all to develop the bikes for off-road racing?
Yeah, slightly. We work with them a little bit, mainly with the a lot of the guys out in California from Honda. If we kind of need some stuff, but with the new or I guess the new 25 bike was a lot different than last year's bike for me. So I had to develop, I've still been developing that bike per se. So yeah, we've had to maybe reach out on a couple things and get some tips and tricks. But yeah, I guess something that was cool last November, I went to Japan, got to meet with like some of the higher ups at Honda, did a race over there, and raced the new 25 over there at the end of last year, November. But it was just cool to like meet with, I don't know, some of those guys from like actually from the factory over there. Just to chat a little bit about just little things, and then it kind of helped us to start this season because we kind of had a jump start and kind of knew what to expect.
Very cool. So are there any like specific components? And I know maybe some of this is a little bit of like a trade secret thing, but are there specific things on your bike that are like a factory one-off part that you cannot get like off the shelf? I know like some teams will run different transmissions or things of that nature. Do you have any like kind of one-off parts on your Phoenix Hondas that are kind of like that?
Yeah, yeah. There's some one-off stuff. Like I run like these carbon, um, we call them wings on my frame. They're to help me kind of grip the bike better. But those are something I really wanted, and luckily Honda allowed me to have those. And then there's some other odds and ends like within our not really like engine package. Like we have the Honda comes like really good with a stock engine, but our engine guy is in house. His name is Lonnie, but he does all his tips and tricks. But he has a really good engine, and then but yeah, we have like some spin-offs that I can't really say that really help our bike that are things you can't buy. And then there's also like Jamie from Twisted Development. He does tuning for us, and that's also just a lot of testing on my end that you can't. I I mean, you can't buy that kind of stuff either, just because just the development and the I guess is really personable on the way you like your bike.
Very cool. Yeah, I know the factory bikes are definitely like a step like above the production bike. So one thing that does make me a big fan of the dirt bike sport, whether it's GNCC or motocross, is the fact that the bikes are production based. So
Mhm.
you can get maybe like 90% there with stuff you can get just off the shelf so to speak, which is pretty neat. I know like Twisted Development, you mentioned, he does have like over the counter, so to speak, consumer packages and stuff, which is pretty neat. So that's kind of another cool aspect of the sport is you have to run production based, but you kind of get some of the special one-off goodies too, being on Phoenix Honda.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thankful we have like our engine guy, we have a in-house suspension guy from Factory Connection at our race shop. And then obviously my mechanics always trying to find little things here and there, like how can we make the bike better, which is cool. And then um but yeah, as a whole, like to be straight up, the stock bikes you can buy nowadays are so good, which makes it good for every consumer that can just go race. And they can get it really close to like even my Phoenix bike. But it's just like little things here and there. A lot of people like different things or suspension wise. So, but yeah, yeah, for sure.
So if someone wants to go, let's say GNCC Racing, would they buy because they sell off-road bikes and they sell motocross bikes? I think Jacob was telling me like so you technically have like it's a like a motocross bike that's configured for the kind of riding you do in GNCC. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. I wanted to ask. So obviously, like I said, we most of the people we've interviewed are people who race on four wheels. And there have been several very successful dirt bike guys that have kind of transferred over to four wheels. Ricky Carmichael raced NASCAR. Obviously, Travis Pastrana. Jeremy McGrath, Jeff Ward, which I know we talked one time about him actually being a pretty successful IndyCar driver. Um, as the old saying goes, with AIDS, get a cage. I think I've heard several people say that in the motocross kind of field. Is four wheel racing something? I know you say you've kind of messed around with go karts a little bit. Is that something that interests you? Something that if you had an opportunity, maybe later down the road, that you would do?
I think so. But there again, like kind of how we were saying, it's you would need an opportunity, like some kind of opportunity, I
Right.
would say,
Yeah. It's
for,
not.
to
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Um, but for fun, like I do enjoy some good go karts. And like honestly, at one point, my dad thought about just selling the dirt bikes and going go kart racing, which was I was kind of for it at one point
Yeah.
when we were younger because I thought it was cool, but kind of glad we didn't do that because I'm not sure. Like, obviously, it's way more expensive to go down that path. Like, I don't know much about it, um,
Yeah.
but
It
yeah, I
definitely.
mean, if I had an opportunity, and I probably would for sure, but we might not ever know.
Well, we still need to get you out here to Indy sometime, to Fast Time. So hopefully we can make that happen sometime.
Yeah, I want to for sure.
So for people who want to come see you race, if you're in the Indy area, I think the one race to tell people to go to would be the Ironman in October. And that's really like your Indy 500 of GNCC racing, right?
Yeah, for sure. That one's our biggest event all year. It's usually, I think last year was right before Halloween,
Yeah.
so late October. Um, yeah, it's good
Lots of
weather.
people.
Yeah, lots of people. There's always good things to do. Like the fans can visit Ironman Hill, see a lot of carnage, a lot of good racing, and honestly, they have a lot of fun things set up for that event. And it's honestly a good way to kind of see what I do is to basically hit that one up because yeah, it draws such a good crowd for sure. And a lot of people in the industry are there.
Yeah, no, it's just a great atmosphere for sure. Jacob, you have anything else?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of going to elaborate just as if you're a race fan, I highly recommend if you haven't to check out a GNCC race. I've noticed it to me, it has a much more kind of a laid back atmosphere compared to a lot of other forms of racing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, Mike, if you wanted to kind of elaborate on that or just kind of maybe as a fan, like maybe what would you recommend or kind of what describe a GNCC maybe from someone who has who's kind of been there his whole life, basically.
Yeah, it is one it's a race you can show up to and not have to really worry about much. You can kind of go, you have a lot of freedom. So you can go on the track pretty much. You can go
Yeah.
within a couple feet of us while we race.
Or try to follow you on an e-bike.
Yeah, try to follow us on e-bikes. But yeah, as a general fan, like it is cool to go to a GNC because you can have that freedom. You're not like stuck behind a fence, like trying to watch the race, and you're not really. I don't know. It's some of the races are tough, like a motocross race, because you're limited to so many areas. But yeah, you like an off-road race, a GNCC. You can go to the creek crosses, you can go to the hills, you can go all this different areas within that 3 hour span, or even there's a 2 hour race before I even race. And yeah, general admissions, like very fairly priced for what you get.
Yeah.
You can watch racing from racing starts at like 8 a.m. and it ends at like 3 or 4. So you can watch all day without basically stopping. So and like yeah, you guys were saying it's laid back. It's not it's serious for sure once we do race, but like it's just a different, I guess, different environment. So definitely worth a shot to come out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd say definitely if you're more of like a purist racer type race fan, it's definitely caters to like more of your purist where there's a lot of chess going on for a 3 hour race, like kind of when to push and stuff. And you're kind of talking about like there's that time difference between each class that starts, so you're kind of figuring where everyone is. So it's a good time to kind of because you don't see the whole track. So you kind of follow the bikes and you kind of wait for them to come around and you can kind of see what's going on. Plus, like you said, you can be 2 feet away from the action. So you can get a good look at those pristine factory bikes compared to sitting up in the grandstands at a supercross.
Yeah, and our yeah, we don't have like you don't have to pay for a pit pass at our races. You can come to the semis and look at all the protein bikes and then chat with all the riders. Like there's no really restrictions or anything like that. So that's also a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We enjoyed chatting with you, and good luck the rest of the season. And like I said, if you want any Mike Witkowski merchandise, go to race92.com, and we'll work on getting some new designs up soon. And yeah, thanks, and we'll see you at the Ironman for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank
Is
you.
there anyone that you wanted to plug here at the end? Tell people to go maybe check out a website or sponsors it or anything?
Yeah, so even our team sells there's just like team apparel as well if you guys are interested in some Phoenix stuff, and then also our Mike Witkowski apparel as well. So those two things would be good to support me at the hopefully the Ironman GNCC this year. And then yeah, I mean just in general, all the fans that come by, I think it's cool. I think some of them might be like a little worried to come up to us, but I think a lot of us riders enjoy it. So we're always down for a good chat, and we're very personal people.
Yeah.
So definitely swing by our semis, and we have like posters, autographs, and whatnot. So we'd be happy to see you guys at the races.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, and yep. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.